When a woman finally learns to master her emotions, something almost unbelievable happens. The man who once ignored her suddenly can't stop thinking about her. The man who tested her begins to respect her. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, warned that this shift is not luck, it's psychology. But why does calmness feel more powerful than anger? And why do men secretly fear a woman who cannot be shaken? The answer will change the way you see every relationship. When a woman learns to master her emotions, she steps into a power few people ever understand. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that emotions are not random storms. They are signals from the unconscious. Most people are controlled by these signals, but the rare individual who learns to stand above them becomes magnetic. For a woman, this mastery changes everything about how men perceive and respond to her. Men are often confused by emotional intensity. Some even withdraw when a woman expresses anger, sadness, or frustration, not because her feelings are wrong, but because men are conditioned differently. Jung explained that men often project their inner anima, the feminine side of their psyche, onto women. This projection is fragile. When faced with raw emotion, many men retreat because it reflects back parts of themselves they cannot handle. But something remarkable happens when a woman learns composure. Imagine a man who is used to provoking reactions, ignoring texts, or pulling away to test her patience. The average response might be tears, confrontation, or desperate chasing. Instead, Jung would say, if she holds steady, calm, centered, unshaken, she steps out of the ordinary pattern. She no longer plays the expected role in his projection. Suddenly, she becomes mysterious. Men crave mystery far more than predictability. When she does not react as expected, he begins to think about her constantly. Jung emphasized that archetypes, the universal roles we unconsciously seek, are powerful forces in relationships. The composed woman reflects the archetype of the wise feminine, the one who knows her worth without shouting it. This archetype unsettles men because it awakens their unconscious longing for depth, while also exposing their own lack of control. And here lies the paradox. By saying less, by remaining calm, by choosing not to be ruled by reactive emotion, a woman gains more influence than by any argument or demand. Jung wrote that what we resist persists. When a man resists her calm, he is actually resisting his own inner chaos. The more he resists, the more he is drawn back. Consider a woman who faces silence from a man she cares for. The natural impulse might be to ask why, to demand clarity, or to chase after answers. But Jung would argue that this response often gives away her power. Silence is not solved with more noise. It is solved with presence. By staying calm, she sends a message more powerful than words. I am not dependent on your attention for my peace. This mastery is not about indifference. It is not about playing games. Jung warned that repression, pretending not to care when you truly do, can damage the psyche. Instead, true mastery comes from integration. The woman feels her disappointment, her longing, maybe even her anger, but she does not let those feelings dictate her actions. She acknowledges them and then chooses composure. This choice shifts the entire dynamic. Men often test boundaries unconsciously. They want to see if a woman will abandon herself to win them. But when she holds her center, she passes the test without even engaging in it. Jung compared individuation, the process of becoming whole, to alchemy. In this alchemy, raw emotion is like base metal. By containing it, by not spilling it everywhere, the woman transforms it into gold. Imagine the man who ignored her text. Hours go by, then a day, maybe two. He expects an outburst, a flood of messages, or visible frustration. But instead, she is living her life. She posts a smile. She continues her work. She radiates peace. He looks at his phone and wonders, why isn't she reacting? Curiosity begins to gnaw at him. He becomes the one chasing clarity. Carl Jung would call this a reversal of projection. The man who once saw her as predictable now sees her as enigmatic. His anima projection begins to shift. She is no longer just an emotional mirror of his expectations, but a figure who awakens his unconscious longing. This shift can be unsettling for him, even frightening. But it is also magnetic. The truth is simple yet profound. When a woman stops giving away her power through uncontrolled reactions, she becomes a mirror of strength. Men both fear and admire this. Fear it because it forces them to face their own immaturity. Admire it because it touches something timeless inside them. Carl Jung often spoke about shadow work, the idea that the parts of ourselves we deny or suppress end up controlling us. For men, the shadow often contains fear of emotional vulnerability. When a woman cries, yells, or demands, she accidentally confirms his shadow fear that emotions are overwhelming and dangerous. But when she demonstrates calm strength, she disarms that shadow. She shows that emotions can exist without chaos. This calmness is not weakness, it is strength refined. Jung once said, "Emotions are the chief source of all becoming." A woman who has mastered her emotions does not deny them, she channels them. Think of water. Uncontrolled, it floods and destroys. Contained, it powers cities. In the same way, her emotional mastery does not suppress her feelings. It directs them with precision. A man encountering this type of woman is often bewildered. He may ignore her to provoke a reaction, but receives none. He may test her patience, expecting anger, but meets serenity instead. In these moments, Jung would say the man is actually meeting his own unconscious. Her calm forces him to reflect inward. He wonders why he cannot control her as he has controlled others. He begins to question himself. This questioning creates attraction. Not the shallow attraction of surface beauty, but the deeper pull of respect and fascination. Men are fascinated by what they cannot fully understand, and a woman who is not shaken by their tests becomes unforgettable. Consider how rare this is. Many women are taught to give everything emotionally, to sacrifice peace for connection. But Jung believed individuation. The journey to selfhood requires boundaries. A woman who can say, "I feel my emotions, but I will not let them control me or you," demonstrates individuation in action. She is whole within herself. This wholeness radiates. People around her, friends, colleagues, even strangers notice it. She seems untouchable, not because she is distant, but because she is sovereign. Men sense this most strongly. For them, she becomes the embodiment of what Jung described as the archetypal wise woman, or Sophia, the union of depth and dignity. The irony is profound. The less she tries to control a man, the more control she seems to have. Not through force, but through presence. Carl Jung taught that relationships are not just between two people, they are also between two unconscious minds. Every glance, silence, and reaction is charged with deeper meaning. When a woman no longer reacts impulsively, she shifts the entire unconscious dialogue. Picture this. A man withdraws, stops calling, or grows cold. Many women, understandably, panic. They reach out more, they question, they confront. But in doing so, they affirm his withdrawal. Jung would call this a repetition compulsion. The cycle repeats because the roles remain predictable. But imagine the woman who notices his distance and remains calm. She feels the sting, but does not collapse into it. She continues her rhythm. She lets him withdraw without chasing. Suddenly, the cycle is broken. He is left alone with his own silence, forced to hear it echo back at him. This echo can be deafening. It awakens his awareness of what he risks losing. This is not manipulation. Jung despised manipulation because it corrupts the psyche. Instead, this is authenticity. She is not pretending to be fine, she is fine, because her center does not depend on his mood. This authenticity creates what Jung called numinous energy, an aura of mystery and depth that feels sacred. Men cannot easily explain why they are drawn back, only that they feel compelled. For example, a man may ignore a message. Hours later, expecting an emotional outburst, he checks again. Nothing. She has not chased. Instead, she has continued her life. This unsettles him. Jung would say it awakens his shadow, the part of him that fears abandonment, but also craves independence. Her calm forces him to face both. This is the paradox of emotional mastery. It is not about controlling others, but about being unshakable in oneself. And yet, this unshakable presence inevitably influences others. Men, in particular, feel both challenged and enchanted by it. The longer she sustains this mastery, the clearer the pattern becomes. Men who once pulled away begin to orbit back. They may not even know why. But Jung's psychology explains it. The woman has stepped into her archetypal power, embodying dignity, patience, and depth. This embodiment awakens the man's unconscious, reminding him of what he secretly longs for, but rarely admits. And so, what seemed like weakness silence, composure, restraint reveals itself as the deepest strength. Carl Jung believed that every relationship is a mirror. The calmer the woman becomes, the clearer the man sees himself. If he cannot handle her calm, it is because he cannot handle his own unrest. If he respects her calm, it is because he recognizes a strength he lacks. In either case, her mastery changes him. This is why men fear and desire such women simultaneously. Fear, because composure strips away their games. Desire, because calmness reveals stability they secretly crave. Jung explained that opposites attract, but not in the shallow sense, in the psychological sense. A man full of inner chaos is magnetized to a woman who holds inner order. The beauty of this mastery is that it extends beyond romance. In friendships, in family dynamics, in the workplace, a woman who owns her emotions commands respect everywhere. People may try to provoke her, but they quickly realize they cannot shake her foundation. Jung would call this individuation fully lived, becoming whole and untouchable, not by rejecting others, but by refusing to betray oneself. Let us be clear. Mastery does not mean coldness. It does not mean becoming robotic. On the contrary, Jung insisted that wholeness requires embracing all feelings. The difference is that the feelings no longer dictate behavior. The woman still feels joy, sadness, even anger, but she holds them with wisdom, not reaction. Men notice this immediately. While others crumble under pressure, she does not. While others beg for attention, she shines without it. While others fall apart in silence, she grows stronger. This contrast makes her unforgettable. And so, when a woman learns to master her emotions, she masters not just herself, but the invisible currents of every relationship around her. She becomes what Jung might call a living symbol, proof that true power is not in control over others, but in sovereignty over oneself. This is why the man who once ignored her comes back. This is why the man who tested her begins to respect her. And this is why men, deep down, both fear and long for the woman who cannot be shaken.